You'll like her, I think, but I hope you'll never get too intimate. I shouldn't like to have her continually around. She " he paused and finished, laughing. "She makes me tired." "I was afraid from her tone when she phoned you that she was a very dear friend, that she might be someone you cared for. There was a sort of proprietorship in her tone." "Yes, that's the very word, proprietorship," he laughed. "I couldn't care for her. I never did. I tried to consider her in that light one day, because I'd been told repeatedly that I ought to settle down; but the thought of having her with me always was, well, intolerable. The fact is, you reign supreme in a heart that has never loved another girl. I didn't know there was such a thing as love like this. I knew I lacked something, but I didn't know what it was. This is greater than all the gifts of life, this gift of your love. And that it should come to me in this beautiful, unsought way seems too good to be true." He drew her to him once more, and looked down into her lovely face as if he could not drink enough of its sweetness. "And to think you are willing to be my wife, my wife!" And he folded her close again. A discreet tap on the door announced the arrival of the man Henry, and Gordon roused to the necessity of ordering lunch. He stepped to the door with a happy smile, and held it open. "Come in a minute, Henry," he said. "This is my wife. I hope you will henceforth take her wishes as your special charge, and do for her as you have done so faithfully for me." The man's eyes shone with pleasure as he bowed low before the gentle lady. "I'se very glad to hear it, sir, and I offers you my congratulations, sir, and de lady too. She can't find no better man in the whole United States dan Mars Gordon. I'se mighty glad you done got married, sir, and I hopes you bofe have a mighty fine life." The luncheon was served in Henry's best style, and his dark face shone as he stepped noiselessly about, putting silver and china and glass in place, and casting admiring glances at the lady, who stood holding the little miniature in her hand, and asking questions with a gentle voice. "Your mother, you say? How dear she is! And she died so long ago. You never knew her? Oh, how strange and sweet and pitiful to have a beautiful girl mother like that!" She put out her hand to his in the shelter of the deep window, and they thought Henry did not see the look and touch that passed between them; but he discreetly averted his eyes, and smiled benignly at the salt cellars and the celery he was arranging. Then he hurried out to a florist next door, and returned with a dozen white roses, which he arranged in a queer little crystal pitcher, one of the few articles belonging to his mother that Gordon possessed. It had never been used before, except to stand on the mantel. It was after they had finished their delightful luncheon, and Henry had cleared the table and left the room, that Gordon remarked: "I wonder what has become of George Hayne. Do you suppose he means to try to make trouble?" Celia's hands fluttered to her throat with a little gesture of fear. "Oh!" she said, "I had forgotten him. How terrible! He will do something, of course. He will do everything. He will probably carry out all his threats. How could I have forgotten? Perhaps mamma is now in great distress. What can we do? What can I do?" She looked up at him helplessly, and his heart bounded at the thought that she was his to protect as long as life should last, and that she already depended upon him. "Don't be frightened," he soothed her. "He cannot do anything very dreadful, and if he tries, we'll soon silence him. What he has written in those letters is blackmail. He is simply a big coward, who will run and hide as soon as he is exposed. He thought you did not understand law, and so took advantage of you. I'm sure I can silence him." "Oh, do you think so? But mamma, poor mamma, it will kill her. And George will stop at nothing when he is crossed. I have known him too long. It will be terrible if he carries out his threat." Tears were in her eyes, agony was in her face. "We must telephone your mother at once, and set her heart at rest. Then we can find out just what ought to be done," said Gordon soothingly. "It was unforgivably thoughtless of me not to have done it before." Celia's face was radiant at the thought of speaking to her mother. "Oh, how beautiful! Why didn't I think of that before? What perfectly dear things telephones are! With one accord they went to the telephone table. "Shall you call them up, or shall I?" he asked. "You call, and then I will speak to mamma," she said, her eyes shining with her joy in him. "I want them to hear your voice again. They can't help knowing you are all right when they hear your voice." For that he gave her a glance very much worth having. "Just how do you account for the fact that you didn't think I was all right yesterday afternoon? I have a very realizing sense that you didn't. I used my voice to the best of my ability, but it did no good then." "Well, you see, that was different. There were those letters to be accounted for. Mamma and Jeff don't know anything about the letters." "And what are you going to tell them now?" She drew her brows down a minute and thought. "You'd better find out how much they already know," he suggested. "If this George Hayne hasn't turned up yet, perhaps you can wait until you can write. Or we might be able to go up to morrow and explain it ourselves." "Oh, could we? How lovely!" "I think we could," said Gordon. "I'm sure I can make it possible. Of course, you know a wedding journey isn't exactly in the program of the Secret Service, but I might be able to work them for one. I surely can in a few days if this Holman business doesn't hold me up. I may be needed for a witness. I'll have to talk with the chief first." "Oh, how perfectly beautiful! Then you call them up, and just say something pleasant, anything, you know, and then say I'll speak to mamma." She gave him the number, and in a few minutes a voice from New York said, "Hello." "Hello," called Gordon. "Is this Mr. Jefferson Hathaway? Well, this is your new brother-in-law. How are you all? Your mother recovered from all the excitement and weariness? That's good. What's that? You've been trying to phone us in Chicago?" "But we're not in Chicago. We changed our minds and came to Washington instead. Yes, we're in Washington, the Harris Apartments. We have been very selfish not to have communicated with you sooner. At least I have. Celia hasn't had any choice in the matter. I've kept her so busy. Yes, she's very well and seems to look happy. She wants to speak for herself. I'll try to arrange to bring her up tomorrow for a little visit. I want to see you, too. We've a lot of things to explain to you. Here is Celia. She wants to speak to you." Celia, her eyes shining, her lips quivering with suppressed excitement, took the receiver. "Oh, Jeff, dear, it's good to hear your voice," she said. "Is everything all right? Yes, I've been having a perfectly beautiful time, and I've something fine to tell you. All those nice things you said to me just before you got off the train are true. Yes, he's just as nice as you said, and a great deal nicer besides. Oh, yes, I'm very happy, and I want to speak to mamma, please. Jeff, is she all right? Is she perfectly well and not fretting a bit? You know you promised to tell me. What's that? She thought I looked sad? Well, I did, but that's all gone now. Everything is perfectly beautiful. Tell mother to come to the phone, please. I want to make her understand." "I'm going to tell her, dear," she whispered, looking up at Gordon. "I'm afraid George will get there before we do, and make her worry." For answer he stooped and kissed her, his arm encircling her and drawing her close. "Whatever you think best, dearest," he whispered back. "Is that you, mamma?" With a happy smile she turned back to the phone. "Dear mamma, yes, I'm all safe and happy, and I'm so sorry you have worried. We won't let you do it again. But listen, I've got something to tell you, a surprise, mamma. I did not marry George Hayne at all. No, I say I did not marry George Hayne at all. George Hayne is a wicked man. I can't tell you about it over the phone, but that was why I looked so sad. Yes, I was married all right, but not to George. He's so different, mother, you can't think. He's right here beside me now, and mother, he is just as dear. You'd be very happy about him if you could see him. What did you say? Didn't I mean to marry George? Why, mother, I never wanted to. I was awfully unhappy about it, and I knew I made you feel so too, though I tried not to. But I'll explain all about it. You'll be perfectly satisfied when you know all about it. No, there's nothing whatever for you to worry about. Everything is right now, and life looks more beautiful to me than it ever did before.